Hello, boys and girls. It's your Uncle Angry with a bedtime story. Are you sitting comfortably? Great, then we'll begin. Today's story is called A Quiet Day in Toy Town, or Mr. Plod Gets a Little Uptight and Goes Apeshit Crazy with his Armalite Rifle. One fine and sunny day, Noddy decided to take his bright, shiny red car for a drive through Toy Town. How happy he was as he tooted hello to everyone he passed in the street. Children who thought they were safe on the pedestrian crossing scampered eagerly for the footpath when Noddy swerved playfully in their direction. Mrs. Cat blushed coyly as Noddy winked and leered at her suggestively while he was stopped at the traffic lights. Mr. Cat called a cheery greeting that Noddy did not exactly understand. He decided he would look up toe rag in the dictionary when he got home. Continuing through Toy Town, Noddy spied Mr. Plod, the police constable, standing by his patrol car, looking very cross indeed. Ever helpful, Noddy pulled up to see if he could offer assistance. "Having trouble, Mr. Plod?" asked Noddy with a summary grin. The expression Mr. Plod returned was not so much a warm smile as an icy glare. Not at all the sort of look you would expect from a friend, and Noddy firmly believed the police were his friends. "My car's broken down," said Mr. Plod in his matter-of-fact way. "Oh dear," replied Noddy. "Maybe you'd like me to give you a jump start." He embellished his offer with a little thrust of his hips and followed it with an appreciative giggle for his favourite joke. Luckily for Noddy, Mr. Plod decided to ignore this little effort. "It's those bloody gollywogs at the service station," Mr. Plod asserted. "They deliberately sabotaged my car while it was in for a checkup. They're anti-social," he added, warming to his topic now. "They're nothing but thieves and alcoholics, and I'm going to sort them out," he concluded meaningfully. Whatever could he mean by that? Noddy wondered. His unasked question was soon answered when Mr. Plod reached into the back of his patrol car and drew out an Armalite semi-automatic rifle, typical of the weaponry all Toy Town police had been issued to protect their personal safety in these dangerous times. "Steady on, Mr. Plod," Noddy cautioned gently. "I know they're black, but you can't just attack all the gollywogs for something you think one of them may have done. I mean, sure, there are bad apples in every barrel, but you don't want to shoot an innocent person, do you?" "Fuck off, Noddy," said Mr. Plod in his down-to-earth way. "Who asked you?" And, without further comment, he brushed Noddy aside with a quick burst from his M16. "Gosh," thought Noddy, "lucky I'm not real, or this'd be worse than sawdust coming out of me right now." Not so lucky were the gollywogs, who were blasted into bite-sized chunks by the now dangerously unstable Mr. Plod. In fact, such was his bloodlust that Mr. Plod decided not to stop with the gollywogs and began to shoot at anyone who passed by the business end of his gun. But, like most things, ammunition is not an inexhaustible resource, and the carnage came to an end when Mr. Plod's last carbine was empty. Well, that left him with the unenviable task of explaining his actions. A large and angry crowd of Toy Town folk, which could only be described as a lynch mob, had cornered Mr. Plod and were about to wreak a terrible revenge upon him. And perhaps they would have done the awful things to his genitals that Mr. Jolly was suggesting, had not Noddy spoken up so eloquently in his defence. He asked them to remember all the wonderful things Mr. Plod had done for their community, like organising the blue light discos and setting up the neighbourhood vigilante scheme. And, of course, they had to take into account the fact that he'd been feeling very uptight because of the breakdown of his car. Thankfully, reason prevailed, and the good people of Toy Town decided Mr. Plod deserved another chance. A few surviving gollywog complained, But then, that Tite's never happy. To show his integrity, Mr. Plod promised a full inquiry into the whole affair. Noddy was so glad everyone was friends again. After all, he said, without Mr. Plod, who would protect us from homicidal maniacs with no respect for human life? What a silly little Noddy!